So how do you end up here after studying this type of music? That's what I want to show you in this video. Hey everybody and welcome to this video. My name is Yannis, I'm a musician and producer, and in this video I want to show you why you, as a music producer, should at least once have a tiny little look at the music of Meshuggah. Because that's the reference you heard in the intro, and while of course they do some very aggressive sort of metal music, they have some extremely unique rhythmic concepts that can be applied, even if it's in a very, very simplified manner, to possibly all styles of music. But before we're going to start, just a little anecdote, and you're of course very free to skip to the musical part directly by checking the chapters. But I also want to tell you on a more emotional level why I actually decided to make a video about Meshuggah. So I've been a metalhead in my teenage years and I don't listen to metal that much anymore, but if I do, it's quite likely going to be Meshuggah. And this fact is also really supported by me seeing them live in 2016, and it was one of the best and unique concert experiences that I ever had. And I've been to all sorts of concerts, like from classical to jazz to like hip-hop to some more popular acts to some R&B, funk type of stuff, but also to some metal concerts. And among all of those, this experience was so unique because they have this extremely interesting mixture of aggression, peacefulness and meditation, although that might sound really strange to you. You can also see that by looking at their audience, because they of course have the typical metal crowd, but you also see lots of people standing there really focused and being like counting or going through the music inside their heads, and it's really cute and also just adds up to this whole unique concert experience. And so long story short, I feel like they are extremely unique thinking about music bands in general, like across all genres, and that's why I wanted to make a video about it. And this is going to be part one because I realized that I wanted to put too much information into just one video. So next week, or if you this week will already have passed, you can find the link in the corner. There will be another video that you're also warmly invited to watch after seeing this one. But enough of my emotional blah, let's actually get to the musical content, because the band is really known for their rhythmically complex structures that you can mainly think of multiple rhythms going on at the same time. The main idea that you find in many, of course not all, but many Meshuggah compositions is that you have a very, very steady drum beat, at least if you look at cymbal or hi-hat and the snare drum, because you clearly have a 2 and 4, or if you're in halftime also a 3, that really gives you some rhythmic stability if you don't listen to the rest of the elements. Because next to it, you often have like a riff that is played in unison by just the kick drum, the guitars and also the bass. And this one does not fit into the typical 4/4 measure. I want to show it to you by the example of their song Bleed, which actually inspired lots of musicians to also make videos about it, including myself. I actually made some small version with my Nord drum some weeks ago. And the good thing about working with the DAW, because I'm going to show you those examples in Ableton Live, is that you can actually program quite complex things before you actually have to play all of them. But at the same time, this should give you even more respect to them, being able to perform this day after day or night after night live with all the energy and intensity and tightness, and they're just complete monsters on their instruments. So you should never forget that, especially if you have those kind of DAW possibilities at your hand where you don't have to worry about anything. You can just program the most complex things. So here I'm inside Ableton Live, and you see I prepared a couple of examples because I want to start with taking a look at actually the core element of the song Bleed, explain it to you so you can understand it. And then I'm also going to show you how you can take it to the next step by transferring it into some different sort of sound and possibly get some very nice ideas for starting some own compositions or arrangements with your own music or own ideas. So as I mentioned, let's start with this simple beat. So we're in some medium tempo, and in Bleed, for example, we have a halftime beat. So that means, let's actually take a look at it, that the hi-hat plays quarter notes and the snare drum plays on 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is very simple and digestible. But let's actually now bring in the main riff, and let's only start with the kick drum. And I've actually separated those into different examples because the riff is a little more complex, but the core element is this. Let's slow down a little to see what really happens. So this element keeps on going underneath this drum beat, and you can hear that it kind of shifts. It doesn't sound the same all the time. There's just some ongoing motion. And this is because this clip is shorter than a quarter note or even a 4/4 note, because you can see if I would drag it here, it would be exactly the duration of a quarter note. So you can see that it always goes along with the height. This way it sounds way more digestible or also easy to catch with your ears. But now we shorten this to 3/16 notes instead of 4/16 notes or 1/4 note. And through this whole rhythm keeps on shifting underneath the basic rhythm. And the nice thing about Ableton, or possibly every DAW, however you do it, but especially here in the session view, is that you can really do those polyrhythmic things, that's how you call those structures, by just adjusting the length of those clips. Because even if our main signature is 4/4, you can have clips that just have the duration of 3/16 notes, or may it be 5 or 7 or whatever. And they will just be repeated perfectly and shift with those other rhythms, so it's just an amazing thing to simulate those things. But I will also tell you later that it's a great exercise to make some clapping or rhythmic playing exercises out of those figures, because it will definitely enhance your feeling for rhythm, but I'll get to this later. For now, let's also have a look at the riff, because here I have the actually full riff, although I again made a loop because there are some changes in the riff, but you can see that there are some changes in the pitch. And let's actually just once listen to them where they are. There we are again at the start of our phrase. So it takes 6 bars in total to go through the whole sequence. And there's always some type of math behind how long it takes for one of those cycles to get back to its starting point again. You can see here that it's 6 bars, but also due to the fact that there's always 1 bar of the same note and then 1 bar of additional pitches. And this way it actually needs 6 bars to go back to the start of the phrase. But if it would all be the same note, so let's actually say we're staying at the same all the time here. Oh, I missed this one, I'm sorry. And now we would only have to loop this one, because it takes only 3 bars to get back to the start of this rhythmic phrase without the pitch. Because you can see here that it's another start than here, because here it starts with those 3 notes, and also here it's another start because it keeps shifting. And if you have this kind of element of 3/16 notes, and it doesn't really matter what kind of subdivision, could also be 8 notes or even quarter notes. But if it's some division of 3, it will need kind of 3 bars of this main groove that you have here on the left side to actually get back to the 1. And sometimes it can be 6 if for some reason you're in double time or something, but it will always have something to do with the number of 3. And the same would be if you would have some group of maybe 5 subdivisions. I want to look at this at the next video more. Today we focus on 3, but then you will also need some 5 bars to get back to 1, or maybe 10 if you're in double or half time. Sometimes it depends, but it will again be some 5 or multiple of 5. And here it will be 3 or a multiple of 3. Also, don't forget to just drop any questions in the comments if I didn't explain something well enough or sounded a bit confusing or you just didn't get it. Because with those rhythmic concepts, it's just completely normal that you don't get it immediately. And the comment section is just great. I'll always answer your questions, and I just understand that it's impossible to make it kind of clear for everybody, because there's not really a universal language. Everybody has some unique things of getting things. So please drop any kind of your questions all the time once you have them, because I'll always reply to them, and this way you can make sure to get the most out of this video. But okay, now you might think it's kind of interesting. Now you might understand this, but how the heck would you implement this into your own music? You're not doing metal, you're not using this kind of riff approach, you don't use those fast tempos, so what can you do with it? And that's why now I want to show you a couple of possibilities of how you can actually take away those ideas and transfer them to some totally different sound and also possibly genre. And the key to this is to actually simplify, because here you see with this riff, I have a version called Bleed Simplified, because I also have the core one here where I don't have the pitch changes, but just this that always gets repeated. But the simplified version, I just took those two notes here away. So instead of having this which really is some metal type of element, you only have, actually, let's start a beat. And also this time I'm going to use some beat that is actually double time. Or not half time, so normal time, because the one I've shown you was double time, half time, Jesus Christ. And sorry for that. And so now I'm playing this beat and we'll show you this simplified version. We can actually increase the tempo now. And you see, you already have actually less notes, and it doesn't have to stay bass at the same time, because for example here, I just used this kind of chord plugin to add one chord to this note. It will sound still a bit monotonous, but just to see how quickly the character changes if you do something else with it. And of course, it sounds really monotonous now, but you can then sounds already different. Now we get into some more groovy territory. And this idea I've now taken to the arrangement view, because you can see here that I have some examples, and I mainly mean those ones here. And this is actually almost the one that you heard in the intro. And I just want to show you quickly again how it sounds like, and I have to adjust the loop. And this one has to go off. And this one starts already sounding like something that could be a nice foundation for a whole track to be built on. And to say one thing already, this is exactly the same rhythm but modified, because if you look at this clip here, you can see that I actually muted a couple of ones, so not everything is played, otherwise it would just sound like the example I've shown you, but just with 4 different pitches. And here, I've actually, for the bass, some kind of Rhodes bass part, also muted a couple of ones, but not the same ones, so they kind of interact. So sometimes if, for example, this one is muted here, at the upper part with the chords, it won't be muted, so this one plays, and the other way around. And this creates some kind of interesting rhythms. And for the chord changes, I have a whole duration of 3 bars. And typically we have like 4 different chords and just a phrase to just now bring back in some digestible music content. So if we want to fit 4 chords into this kind of 3-bar structure, because after 3 bars also the whole thing repeats itself, like I mentioned. So that's kind of what we can use to have the kind of nice loop. Then you have 3 counts per chord, because you can see here 1, 2, 3. Then here the next one starts, and sometimes I actually used already the last note before the next chord count to be played for the new chord, because you have this type of syncopated feel that makes things a little more moving. And that's really fun, because you can really drag things around, or not drag things around, but mute and unmute to just see what happens. And this is actually what I came up with just that way. So you can really do the same process with whatever sound you like. It's nice to have 2 sounds, so you can have this kind of interactive thing. I'm also sending this into some reverb, some delay here, the Echo Boy, to just enhance a little this rhythmical feeling. And let's just listen once more, because in a faster tempo it even sounds better. And just in between, a little reminder that in case you enjoy this video, be more than warmly invited to subscribe to this channel, because you can find more content about composition, production and performance. And also every new subscriber just helps this channel a tiny little bit to grow, a tiny little bit day by day. So if you happen to enjoy the content, just be warmly invited to subscribe. And let's get back to the topic now. I also simulated the same approach, but in a more Meshuggah way, which means we use the kind of typical 4-bar structure. And so now we need a little longer for this phrase to repeat itself, because now you can see that I am actually going to play it for you once. Second bar, third bar, fourth, first, second, third, fourth, first, second, third, fourth. And now it would start again. So now we have the chord changes like per bar, but this means we have to work a little harder to make this cycle, because we have to work out more variations, because it just takes longer. So you can see it's like 12 bars in total. And this is a little more work, because you create this first one actually until here exactly the way you did it here, although you have to make sure that the chords change a little later, so with the bar count. And then I did it actually in a way that I copied this one and inserted it then here. That's why you see this gap, because that was the point where the next note would come. And then you can see if it already works, or if you have to shift a couple of notes to the front. But it can also sound kind of fun, as you can see here, if some things get a little overlapped, or just anticipate the next chord a little earlier. And this way the whole rhythmic tension starts to build, and you don't necessarily always have to realize exactly what's happening, but you can listen to it, which is really important. And you can also check if there's some weird interruption, so because you immediately realize once the cycle is broken. So if you put this directly here, you will see it's weird. Or not weird, but now the whole figure just starts again. And if you prolong this, especially for chords, and if there's some melody, you can just make the chords sound way less static and add a lot of movement. And actually the melody also needs to be maybe less intense, because you already have this kind of rhythmical tension that is basically part of your composition. And it also sounds kind of fun with some more techno-based drum part like this one. And yeah, this is still the core idea of the Meshuggah song, but turned into something totally different now. I also want to show you one Ableton specific thing that you can do with those riffs in clip mode, which is incredibly inspiring, because they have a function for chance. So you can actually randomly let the computer come up with riffs and kind of guide it a little. And that's what I want to show you now. So let's get back to our first example. And this time we're only using the sample riff. So I put this here as a clip, and so now we should only hear this one. Yes, and actually we play it together with the speed. And what we do now is that here you can see chance, and right now it plays everything exactly how it is programmed here. But if I select everything now, I can here change the chance, and I first do it for all of them because I want to refine it in a bit. So if you, for example, bring this down to, let's say, 33, but then again, say you always want to have the first note of the chord, because this kind of defines the structure, and otherwise it sounds too chaotic. You just increase it for those first notes of the then new chord. Let's see what happens. Oh, and actually, I forgot that now we should unmute those, because we want the computer to come up with figures by itself. So let's see what happens. And now you could have different, what did I, oh, sorry. It has to be loop, of course. And you can also, over time, for example, increase this one. Like now we have everything. which is really fun. Unfortunately, there's not like some audio effect that can really imitate it this way. But you can, for example, as some workaround, just have a session with like different clips that just have a different intensity of this variation. And this can be really fun. And I mean, this is now Ableton specific, and also it's the new feature of Ableton 11. But if you have it and want to make some live sets with different intensities of those rhythmic things, it's just fantastic. So also some warm invitation to check that out. Also, I mentioned once that you can also make great rhythm exercises out of those riffs, and I quickly want to show you how I mean that. So, for example, let's just play the drum part. And actually, let's go back to the first one, like the original examples. So now we have this drum part, and now you can adjust the tempo to whatever feels comfortable to you, because this is really fast for the beat we have to play. And now you can just clap on your table and see if you can actually keep the rhythm for maybe a minute or something. So let's go. We don't do it a minute now. And try not to get lost. Because as a music producer, you just tend to stare at the screen a lot and program lots of things, especially if it's more complicated. And those active exercises, like rhythm exercises, can be so much fun. And they help you understand rhythm in a deeper way. They make you feel easier rhythms in an even simpler way. And you just get better at understanding and feeling rhythms. So this is some quick, nice thing that you can also do. And even if you do it like 2 minutes per day, it's just some amazing exercise. And that was it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you could find some inspiration in it. If it's the case, be warmly invited to subscribe to this channel, where you can find more videos about music composition, production, and also performance. And also, don't forget, there's another video, or will be another video next week, about creating actually your own types of riffs. So today we were just taking one idea and transformed it into something new, but I also want to show you how you can create those types of figures by yourself without necessarily taking the idea of another song and transforming it, which is sometimes even more fun. So be warmly invited to check out that video as well. Apart from that, I just wish you inspiration with whatever it is that you create, and would be super happy to meet you around soon again at this channel. Bye!